I'm Tanya Swift, and I'd like to talk to you about children as individuals, how we can support children in different ways and identify how they best develop and learn and grow. Thinking about lots of ways that we can identify that can make a big difference to them. So, I just want to start with how different children learn. So some learn, to be honest with you, this does apply to adults as well, but when it comes to early years, it's really good to think about how some children will learn through trial and error. They do not want to be helped. They want to figure stuff out for themselves. Whereas other children are quite cautious. They need someone to really guide them and support them and, help them figure out what to do. So they do want support. Some other children, they want some step-by-step instructions where you've got children who just want to be told and then get on with it, be left to do it. You've got children who learn best from adults, whereas other children learn best from their peers, from other children, so they can communicate better with adults or children. And then you've got some children who learn best when they're in a big, wide environment, they're outdoors, they're doing great, exciting things, whereas other children need a safe, small, quiet environment. One thing that's really important to think about, especially if you're an educator, so if you're in a school, especially a school if you've got 30 children, some children really do struggle in big groups. And if you can identify that whether you've got some of those children, if you can try and do as much as you possibly can in smaller groups, you really are going to help that child a lot, or those children a lot, because they will struggle in a big group, and it will have an impact on their learning and their development and everything that they do. Some children just can't cope with noise. A lot of these things we think of being relevant to children who are autistic. And actually you may be dealing with a child who's mildly autistic, but actually some children just really do struggle with noise or big rowdy groups. Some children just need a small group. You've got lots and lots of differences. For example, in early years, children of different gender grow and develop in different ways in the early years. I'm not going to go too much into that, but also remember one thing that's very important is not to stereotype them. I still deal with a lot of teachers and early years practitioners who come on my training who create an active story, and the boy is the hero and the girl is the damsel in distress, which is absolutely fine. But when is the girl going to be the hero and the boy going to be the dude in distress? So, it's just thinking about stereotyping and how we need to make sure that we give them equal opportunity, because sometimes we don't realize what we have, we've just grown accustomed to, can actually impact on how we help young children develop and grow. Another thing is temperament. You've got some children who are very sensitive. We have to be very careful with them because they might cry easily, they might take offense to things easily, and they're just sensitive. And that could just be their temperament, not necessarily to do with anything else going on in their lives. That's just the kind of person they are. And then you've got that child who's the bull in the china shop, who just does ridiculous things, which is fine. But it's just figuring out what would be the best way to calm them down. How can we help them focus? How can we help them make the most of their mad bullishness? You've got culture. Now, when I talk about culture, it's not necessarily about the country we come from or a religion or anything like that. It's the culture of how we've been brought up. So when a child starts, for example, school, we have to really be careful that we're not doing things that are completely different to what happens at home, because it'll be very confusing for them. You might find a child is misbehaving or not dealing with anything in particular very well, but that could be because they just aren't used to the way you're communicating with them. So culture is a bit of an issue. If you are a parent, it's just thinking about working closely with those people who care for your children. How can you make sure that they are giving the same messages as you? It's an important thing for children, because otherwise things get quite complicated and confusing for them. Obviously different learning styles, that goes back to what I said earlier, but also the whole concept of some children listen well, some children need to be shown what to do, and some children need to physically feel what they're doing. So different children learn in different ways, so we need to think about how we can ensure that we supporting and demonstrating in those different ways. As a parent, sometimes it's worth thinking, if you're trying to talk to your child and they're spinning around and it feels like they're ignoring you, potentially they're just struggling to take in what you're trying to get across to them. Now you have children who are going through life circumstances such as divorce, moving from another country or another city, and sadly death. They might be going through things like that. That will impact on how they respond to anything else in life. So it's always important, if your child is struggling, so if you're a parent and your child is struggling, it's important to think they might actually be struggling to learn and develop, because something big is happening in your world. I would say, if there is a big life event going on, try and be as honest as you possibly can to your child, or with your child, because if it's a confusing situation, something new, and you don't explain to them what's going on, they're going to be making it up in their own minds, which then more likely will make things even more scary and confusing, because children actually only have so much experience to draw from. So be sure to try and be as honest as possible. We want to protect them, and it's important not to give them some harsh truths, but it's as important to make sure that you help them understand what's going on and help them make sense of it. So obviously you've got children who have special educational needs and disabilities, so of course they're going to be an individual in their own right, but just because they have a medical condition doesn't mean to say that's all they're about. They're a child that's individual, and they've got their own individual needs, and like any other child, it's taking into account the big picture, everything about them, and identifying how you can support them to learn and develop to the best that you possibly can, to the best they can. So it's important to think every child is different. Every child learns differently. Every child's got different life circumstances and experiences. So whether you work with a child in early years, or if you've got a young child of your own, first have a little think about the big picture about that child, and then think about how you can support them. And sometimes thinking, if children aren't learning from you, maybe just change your teaching style a little bit. There's nothing wrong in us developing, us old dogs, sorry, I'm calling you old dogs, us older people, I truly believe we can constantly learn, we can constantly develop, we can constantly change. So there's nothing wrong with teaching a group of children, being a teacher, being an early years practitioner, and working one way for years and years and years, and then learning something new, and then just changing. That in any way in life, that's a recipe for success. So if you want to find out more about this, please have a look at my website or get in touch. I hope you found this video interesting, and thank you for listening.